As I begin this in-depth exploration into the world of supermarket-ready meals from a public health perspective, I am acutely aware of the trust that millions of Britons place in their local supermarket shelves. My name is George Jones, and as a health and medicine specialist trained at Imperial College London, I feel both a professional and personal responsibility to help British consumers understand the full impact of their food choices. Recent scientific research, combined with a wave of public health news and insightful books on nutrition, paints a sobering picture of how our reliance on convenience foods, particularly those sold by household brands like Tesco, may be undermining our long-term well-being. Every week, more than half of UK households purchase at least one ready meal. The lure of convenience, afford, and the familiarity of trusted British brands like Tesco, Sainsbury's, and Marks & Spencer has become woven into our national lifestyle. However, behind the bright packaging and enticing advertising claims lies a growing body of evidence warning that some of these foods present worrying risks to our health, especially those falling under the ultra-processed category. To set the scene, it's crucial to define what is meant by ultra-processed foods. The term was popularised by British and international medical journals such as The Lancet and the BMJ, which reference the Nova classification system. Ultra-processed foods are industrial formulations made mostly or entirely from substances extracted from foods, derived from food constituents, or synthesized in laboratories. They contain little or no whole foods and are typically loaded with additives, flavour enhancers, colours, emulsifiers, preservatives, and bulkers. British experts now link these foods directly to the rise in obesity, diabetes, heart disease, cancer, and even mental health issues. Recent studies published in 2023 and 2024 have reinforced the association between high intake of ultra-processed meals and increased risk of death from all causes, including cardiovascular and gastrointestinal diseases. In Britain's supermarkets, especially in the convenience aisles of Tesco, Sainsbury's and ASDA, ultra-processed ready meals are everywhere, promoted as quick fixes for busy families, professionals and students alike. The trust gap is widening. Traditional British consumer protection principles rooted in the idea that supermarkets are accountable for the quality and safety of their products are being challenged by the realities of industrial food production. While many still view Tesco as a household name, ranking among the UK's most recognisable brands, recent investigations have shown that even the largest supermarkets are not immune to nutritional pitfalls. In 2024, the Food Standards Agency and public health groups raised alarms over ready meals contaminated with excessive salt, saturated fat, and questionable additives. The branding and packaging, often displaying claims such as low-fat, balanced, or source of protein, are sometimes misleading. As an evidence-based practitioner, I encourage anyone shopping in Tesco or similar supermarkets to look past these claims and examine the ingredient lists and nutritional labels for themselves. Let us consider what lies beneath the surface of 7 specific categories of Tesco ready meals. Each category represents a major source of dietary risk for the UK public, especially considering how these foods are routinely consumed week after week. Firstly, healthy low-calorie ready meals may sound like a sensible option, but many are loaded with artificial sweeteners, flavourings, and modified starches. These ingredients are rarely disclosed in depth on the packaging, and mounting evidence suggests their regular consumption disturbs gut health, blood sugar control, and appetite regulation. Tesco's Healthy Living chicken curry is a case in point. While the calories are modest, the sodium and artificial additive counts are alarmingly high. In contrast, ready meals from brands like Marks & Spencer, while not immune to problems, often contain fewer artificial ingredients and more recognizable whole food components. Creamy pasta dishes, popularly sold in Tesco under names like macaroni cheese and creamy chicken pasta, present another concern. These meals contain high amounts of saturated fats, processed cheeses, and reconstitute meats. The regular intake of such fats is a well-established driver of rising cholesterol and cardiovascular risk across the UK population. Medical texts document how processed fats and low-fibre diets directly contribute to the growing rates of heart disease and obesity. Tesco's own traffic light nutrition labels often show red indicators for fat and salt, yet the meals continue to fly off the shelves. Meanwhile, competitors such as Waitrose have begun to offer pasta-based ready meals with significantly lower fat and salt contents, setting an example for healthier supermarket options. Classic British comfort meals, think shepherd's pie, fish pie, and sausage and mash, remain cultural staples, but the ready meal versions sold by Tesco routinely harbour hidden salt, sugar, and sometimes trans fats. In my recent research review, drawn from UK government nutritional surveys, the salt levels in Tesco's bangers and mash are nearly double the recommended per meal allowance. These stealthy levels of sodium and added sugars have been implicated by the British Heart Foundation in the escalation of high blood pressure and childhood obesity rates. By contrast, the balanced few ranges at Sainsbury's and Marks & Spencer reflect more rigorous commitment to salt reduction, although shoppers must still read labels carefully. It is worth noting that Tesco's everyday value line targeted at budget-conscious families has been identified in consumer reports for containing the cheapest, lowest quality ingredients, including mechanically separated meats and chemically modified starches. Breaded or coated chicken mains are another Tesco favourite, frequently marketed as children's meals or quick dinner options. Yet these meals often consist of reformed chicken pieces, excessive stabilisers, and deep-fried coatings. The British Medical Journal has published work indicating that high intake of additives such as monosodium glutamate and sodium phosphates is linked to increased risk of digestive disorders and poor bone health. Tesco's Southern Fried Chicken meal contains up to 7 distinct preservatives and flavouring compounds. For families seeking genuinely healthier alternatives, Marks & Spencer's roast chicken dinner and Waitrose's free-range chicken breast ready meal possess simpler ingredient lists and higher meat quality. Microwavable curries and rice pots, a staple for those seeking international flavour on a budget, are not immune from criticism. Tesco's chicken tikka masala and vegetable curry pots are rich in bulkers, preservatives, and trans fats, a combination shown to impair cardiovascular and metabolic health. The cheap fillers, such as potato starch and palm oil derivatives, contribute to calorie load without meaningful nutrition. According to the latest NHS eating guidelines, regular consumption of trans fats and high sodium meals is contributing to a rise in heart and kidney disease across the UK. Shoppers looking for better options can turn to the Love Life range at Waitrose or Sainsbury's authentic Indian ready meals, which are lower in additives and higher in real vegetable content. Some British shoppers may be surprised to learn that meat-free or vegetarian ready meals such as Tesco's vegetarian chili or meat-free lasagna are not automatically healthier. Many feature high levels of processed soy, sodium, and industrial flavourings. Scientific articles and consumer watchdog reports suggest that some vegetarian ready meals may be just as ultra-processed as their meat-containing counterparts. The sodium levels in Tesco's plant-based options are routinely high, undermining their health appeal. More conscientious brands, such as Waitrose and Marks & Spencer, increasingly opt for fresh vegetables, legumes, and grains with minimal ultra-processing. Lastly, the budget favourites line at Tesco, those priced for afford above all else, often use the industry's lowest cost, lowest quality ingredients. Mechanically recovered meats, emulsifiers, flavour enhancers, and colourings are not uncommon. Public health messaging over the past year has emphasized the hidden costs associated with choosing these convenience foods, including long-term risks to heart and digestive health and the perpetuation of health disparities among Britain's working households. The narrative emerging from recent public investigations into budget-ready meals is clear: supermarket cost-cutting should never sacrifice safety or basic nutrition. As we dissect the nutritional pitfalls of these 7 ready meal categories, a consistent theme emerges. British supermarkets, led by Tesco, often rely on branding and packaging to market their products as wholesome, convenient, and affordable. However, the truth revealed in independent lab tests, government reports, and peer-reviewed studies shows that convenience can come at a significant hidden cost. Claims like low sugar, reduced fat, or high in protein should be understood in context. It is not unusual to find that reduced fat meals are compensating for flavor loss by increasing the levels of sugars, sodium, or artificial chemicals. Similarly, budget-friendly options may present an illusion of savings but often deliver less nutrition per pound spent. It is not all negative. Several supermarket ranges and individual brands are taking steps in the right direction, reducing the use of additives and prioritizing whole food ingredients. Notable among these efforts are the Balanced For You ranges at Sainsbury's, Marks and Spencer's Eat Well line, and selected items in Waitrose's healthier ready meal sections. These options are increasingly accessible, well-labeled, and show genuine commitment to improving the health of the nation. Scientific literature confirms that even marginal improvements such as switching from a high-sodium ready meal to one with moderate salt and real vegetables can have outsized effects on population health outcomes. In the next part of this series, I will unpack how to read UK nutrition labels reliably, reveal the tricks and tactics used by supermarkets to obscure unhealthy ingredients, and guide British shoppers towards genuine, affordable alternatives that fit busy lifestyles without sacrificing food quality. For now, the message is clear. Vigilance is essential when choosing ready meals at Tesco and other major supermarkets. Healthier options do exist, but recognizing them demands an informed, evidence-based approach grounded in Britain's unique cultural and nutritional landscape. When I left off in the first part of this investigation, I had walked you through the main Tesco ready meal categories that I believe British consumers should treat with great caution. In this second part, I want to focus on something far more practical and empowering: how you can read the labels, spot the warning signs, navigate the supermarket shelves, and still enjoy convenience without sacrificing your long-term health. As a health and medicine specialist trained at Imperial College London, I see every week how diet patterns shape the reality of NHS waiting rooms, cardiology clinics, and diabetes services. What you pick up in Tesco, Sainsbury's ASDA, Morrison's or Iceland is not a trivial choice. It is, in a very real sense, a long-term investment in your heart, your brain, and your quality of life. The first tool I want you to master is the UK Traffic Light Nutrition Label. This system, now common on most major supermarket-owned brand products, uses red, amber, and green colors to quickly indicate levels of fat, saturated fat, sugar, and salt per 100 grams. It looks simple, but it is often misunderstood. Many of Tesco's most popular ready meals, from chicken tikka masala to lasagna and macaroni cheese, display at least one red light, often for salt or saturated fat. The British Heart Foundation and NHS guidance consistently warn that regular consumption of foods high in salt and saturated fat raises blood pressure, increases cholesterol, and substantially elevates the risk of heart disease and stroke. Yet because the colours are printed small and sometimes placed on the back or lower corner of the pack, shoppers scan the front of pack claims and miss the most important message. In other UK supermarkets such as Waitrose and Marks and Spencer, you will often find more green and amber indicators across their premium and health ranges, though even there, not every product is benign. The second labelling trap involves portion sizes. Many Tesco ready meals are labelled with nutritional values per serving, but the serving size may not correspond to what a typical adult actually eats. I have reviewed a number of own brand and branded products where the pack appears to be for one person, yet the label quietly defines it as 2 servings. This halves the apparent salt, fat, and calorie numbers at a glance and can mislead even diligent shoppers. Independent nutrition researchers and consumer groups in the UK have highlighted this tactic in ready meals, pizzas, and desserts, not only at Tesco, but also at chains like ASDA and Morrison's. To protect yourself, always check both per 100 grams and per pack. If you are likely to eat the full tray, then the whole pack numbers are the ones that matter for your blood pressure and waistline. Another common tactic is the health halo effect, where key phrases, colors, and imagery on the front of the pack are used to suggest that a product is healthier than it truly is. Phrases such as low fat, light, high protein, or plant-based can all create a positive bias in your mind before you even glance at the ingredients. Tesco uses these terms heavily across its healthy living, plant chef, and low-calorie lines, yet a closer look often reveals high sodium, artificial sweeteners, or a long list of additives within numbers. Scientific work in nutrition psychology has shown that people eat more of foods labeled as light or low-fat because they perceive them as less harmful, which undermines any theoretical benefit. Even reputable brands such as Sainsbury's Be Good to Yourself and Iceland's slimming ranges can fall into this pattern, so my advice is consistent: assume nothing from the marketing and always turn the pack over. To understand what you are really eating, you also need to become comfortable with ingredient lists. In the UK, ingredients are listed in descending order of weight, which means the first few items are the most abundant in the product. If you look at a Tesco Southern fried chicken meal and see that water, wheat flour, and vegetable oil appear before chicken, you can immediately infer that the dish is more about batter and filler than quality protein. Likewise, if a vegetarian chili from a budget Tesco range lists rehydrated textured soy protein, modified starch, dextrose, and flavorings before actual vegetables and beans, you are looking at an ultra-processed product with limited whole food content. Medical and nutritional research from major journals has repeatedly linked diets high in such reformulated ingredients and food additives to higher rates of metabolic disease, gut inflammation, and mortality, even after adjusting for other lifestyle factors. A related concern involves certain classes of additives that have attracted increasing scientific scrutiny. Emulsifiers such as carboxymethylsulfose and polysorbate 80, often used in creamy sauces and desserts, have been associated in experimental studies with disruptions to the gut barrier and changes in the microbiome that promote inflammation. Many Tesco creamy ready meals and desserts, along with value-tier products from ASDA and Iceland, rely on this type of additive to create a stable, smooth texture cheaply. Artificial sweeteners, including aspartame and acesulfame K, which appear frequently in diet-ready meals and low-calorie desserts, are now under evaluation by international and European health bodies for potential effects on appetite, weight regulation, and cardiovascular risk. The scientific debate is ongoing, but my interpretation, based on available evidence, is that minimizing long-term exposure to these compounds is a prudent choice, especially when safer alternatives like naturally flavored yogurt, fresh fruit, or minimally processed meals exist. Food safety is another critical dimension that often gets overlooked in discussions about nutrition. In recent years, there have been episodes where supermarket products, including ready meals and chilled foods, were recalled due to contamination, mislabeling of allergens, or concerns about listeria and other pathogens. Tesco, Sainsbury's, and other large chains all have recall lists that are periodically updated, and news outlets have documented instances where products were left on shelves longer than they should have been or stored at inappropriate temperatures. From a public health perspective, this highlights the vulnerability of long supply chains that rely on centralized production, extended shelf life, and just-in-time logistics. A curry made in a factory hundreds of miles away, chilled, transported, and stored in bulk has far more points of potential failure than a freshly cooked dish at home or a simple meal assembled from raw ingredients. This is not a reason to panic, but it is a reason to treat long-life chilled-ready meals with a degree of caution and to pay attention to use-by dates, storage instructions, and any off smells or textures when you open the packaging. One major question I am asked as a doctor is whether all ready meals must be avoided outright. The honest answer is no. There are better and worse choices, and for many Britons, ready meals do provide a necessary bridge between time pressure, limited energy, and the need to get something on the table. However, the goal should be to treat them as an occasional support rather than a daily staple. When you do choose them, favor those with shorter ingredient lists, recognizable foods, and predominantly green or amber traffic lights. In my clinical practice and academic reading, I often recommend that people look at high-quality ranges from supermarkets like Waitrose, Marks & Spencer, or even selected lines from Tesco's finest range, which typically use fewer cheap fillers and more whole ingredients. These options are not perfect, and they can be more expensive, but when combined with simple homemade sides such as steamed vegetables, salads, or microwaved frozen peas, they can form a reasonable compromise for busy weeks. Still, the most powerful strategy remains shifting the balance of your diet away from ultra-processed ready meals and towards basic, minimally processed ingredients. That does not mean spending hours in the kitchen every evening. One of the most effective habits I see in patients who successfully change their health trajectory is batch cooking. For example, taking one weekend afternoon to prepare a large pot of vegetable and lentil stew, a tray of roasted chicken thighs, or a pan of tomato-based pasta sauce can create several days of quick, reheatable meals. Buying from Tesco, Sainsbury's, or Lidl, you can source affordable staples, dried lentils, tinned tomatoes, frozen mixed vegetables, brown rice, oats, and eggs. These items are consistently recommended in public health guidelines and nutrition textbooks because of their nutrient density, fiber content, and low level of processing. Compared with a steady diet of Tesco budget-ready meals, such a pattern is associated in the scientific literature with lower rates of heart disease, type 2 diabetes, and certain cancers. Another promising development is the growing availability of shortcut ingredients that sit somewhere between raw ingredients and full ready meals. Many supermarkets, including Tesco and Sainsbury's, now stock pre-chopped frozen vegetables, microwavable whole grains such as brown rice and quinoa, and pre-cooked chilled proteins like rotisserie chicken or plain grilled chicken strips. When combined thoughtfully, these products can help you assemble meals in under 15 minutes with better nutritional profiles than most own brand ready meals. For example, heating a pouch of microwavable brown rice, mixing it with frozen vegetables and a tin of chickpeas, and topping it with a simple olive oil and lemon dressing takes little more time than microwaving a Tesco curry and delivers far more fiber, micronutrients, and healthier fats. Nutrition research supports this approach, showing that even partial substitution of ultra-processed foods with simple, home-assembled meals leads to improvements in blood pressure, cholesterol, and body weight over time. Supermarkets themselves are under increasing scrutiny and pressure regarding the composition of their ready meal ranges. Campaigns by UK charities, medical colleges, and independent nutrition experts have pushed companies like Tesco, ASDA, and Morrisons to reduce salt, sugar, and certain harmful fats in their products. Reformulation programs have had some success, and there are documented cases where salt has been lowered without major consumer backlash. However, progress is uneven, and aggressive marketing of the least healthy ranges, particularly price-promoted multi-buys on pizzas, desserts, and high-fat ready meals continues. As a health professional, I would like to see tighter regulation around advertising of ultra-processed foods, especially those targeting children and low-income households who bear the brunt of diet-related diseases. Until those policy changes come into force, the most powerful defense remains an informed, skeptical, and empowered shopper. News coverage over the past year has also highlighted a deeper ethical question: should major supermarkets be allowed to profit so heavily from products that scientific bodies now link to nearly every major chronic disease? Investigations in British and international media have revealed the scale of profits derived from ultra-processed foods, including ready meals, sugary cereals, and snacks. At the same time, NHS budgets are strained by rising rates of obesity, type 2 diabetes, heart attacks, strokes, and cancers, many of which are driven or exacerbated by poor diet. When I connect these dots in my role as a doctor and researcher, it is hard not to see a structural imbalance between corporate gain and public health cost. Brands such as Tesco and ASDA maintain glossy sustainability and well-being campaigns, yet the shelves remain dominated by products that do little to promote genuine health. Other retailers, including Waitrose and Marks & Spencer, while far from perfect, have taken somewhat bolder steps in curating healthier ranges and clearly labeling more nutritious options. So where does this leave the average British shopper trying to make sense of it all in a busy Tesco aisle on a Wednesday evening? My practical advice is to adopt a simple mental checklist. First, ask yourself how many steps away from the original food the product appears to be. A tray full of recognizable vegetables, beans, and plainly cooked meat is preferable to a dish dominated by sauces, batters, and reformed ingredients. Second, scan the traffic lights, aim for mostly greens and ambers, and treat anything with multiple reds as an occasional indulgence rather than a weekly staple. Third, read the top 3 offer ingredients and look for real foods rather than a string of industrial terms. Fourth, pay attention to portion size games. Be honest about how much you actually eat. Finally, whenever you can, swap one ready meal in your weekly shop for a simple, minimally processed alternative, whether that is a homemade soup, a baked potato with beans, or an omelette with frozen vegetables. Over time, these small, consistent changes add up. The epidemiological studies that underpin our understanding of diet and disease show patterns emerging over years and decades, not days. Switching from a daily Tesco budget ready meal to a pattern that includes more home-cooked dishes, high-quality ready meals, and basic whole foods may not feel dramatic in the moment, but it shifts your risk curve in a meaningful way. It can also influence your family's eating habits, your children's expectations of what a normal dinner looks like, and even the demand signals that supermarkets respond to when deciding what to stock and promote. In that sense, every British shopper has more power than they realise. As George Jones, a clinician and researcher who has spent years studying the intersection between food systems and health, my message is not to scare you away from supermarkets, but to encourage a new kind of relationship with them. Tesco, Sainsbury's ASDA, Morrisons and others are not merely neutral providers of goods. They are powerful actors shaping what our nation eats. By reading labels critically, treating ultra-processed ready meals with caution, and voting with your wallet for brands and ranges that prioritize genuine nutrition, you contribute to a healthier food culture in the UK. Convenience, afford, and taste do not have to come at the expense of your heart, your brain, or your future.